Welcome to the Never Not Creative podcast. We have a bit of a different episode today. Rachel and I are not talking to a designer or someone in the sort of design industry, but we do have a guest who certainly knows a bit about creativity and how to deal with the ups and downs of what that life is like. And so we have Lubalin with us today. Welcome to the podcast, Lubalin.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us all the way from Montreal. You are a musician, artist, content producer, TikTok star. My family, just in the last week, have been keeling over rewatching the Internet Drama series,
Nice.
which I guess has been a pretty significant chapter in your career so far. And now, obviously, moving into more around music and music videos. Secretly, although I guess now not so secretly, my daughter and I have had "Dog" from your new album on repeat pretty much for the last 3
Nice.
days.
Oh,
So, and it's always like we walk past each other and it's just like like the little jingle as we go. So yeah,
nice.
we've been enjoying it. It's good. So it's nice to find something to add to the playlist.
That's
So,
awesome. Thank you.
so yeah, we've got a few questions for you that we think are going to be interesting for our community and audience, and we're really looking forward to chatting and finding a little bit more about you and how you go about stuff as well.
Love it. Let's get
Yeah,
into it.
cool.
Woohoo. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to chat to you. My partner is a musician on the side, and I was showing him all of your videos, and he was like, wow, he's so talented. Like, how do you take internet trolls and all the, drama you find on the internet into such beautiful music? It's
Oh,
not only catchy, but really well constructed. And that's his words, from one musician to another. So
awesome. Thank you.
you're so welcome. You're clearly have always been a musician, but seeing, how that's kind of evolved for you over time, starting with the Internet Drama series. At what point did creating your own music become the pursuit, and what was the journey? Was the Internet Drama series a big acceleration, course correction, or was it all planned?
Yeah, I think, I've been making music for, I just realized like 22 years. So it's like
Wow.
I'm in deep at this point, when I first started doing the internet dramas, I didn't realize it was going to be such a big thing. It was really just kind of like, okay, let's see, this TikTok thing seems to be happening, and on here, and people. I think I saw somebody turn like the back of a soup can into a song, and I thought, oh yeah, that's cool. That's a fun idea. And so let me try my hand at that, and then yeah, and then that obviously worked a little too well, and then grew my audience very quickly, but also kind of was so potent, was so beloved that it kind of was its own thing. And so then I was the TikTok guy for a while, which I didn't mind. But then at some point you go, okay, hang on a minute, like this wasn't the direction we were on, and I find like throughout my career, I kind of like find a thing that like I don't know where I'm going, right? Like so there's this north star that I'm moving towards, and sometimes you get on a path and it's like parallel-ish, and then at some point you kind of look over at where you think you might be supposed to be, and the gap starts getting wider, and so I kind of now have been pivoting out of that, and so yeah, just released that album and spent like a year rolling it out, which was like too long. But yeah.
In like the design world, we'll often have chats with people who are sort of caught between going, hey, do I want to be like a jack of all trades and like be able to do everything? Or is it better to kind of double down on a niche and kind of follow it? And then we also we'll talk about how, well, like, don't double down on something that you don't want to do any more of, because, people will look at what you did last and go, hey, I'd like some of that. Has it been like quite a challenge to try and move away from internet drama, or were you like always kind of did maybe just chuck it back in every now and again?
It is tricky. I mean, it's always tricky to take something that's working and abandon it,
Yeah.
and I say abandon. I mean, it's on the back burner for now. I know there's people out there who are like, no,
Give me the next one.
yeah, and that's okay. I understand
Do
their
they
love
send you
for
like
that
Reddit
thing.
threads and go, please
Yeah,
make a song
a
out of this.
lot less now, but yeah, like people will send me like, oh, and like private chats and whatever and Facebook groups, and they're like, this crazy thing happened. But to the jack of all trades thing, like one of the things that we forgot, I almost need to like Google the full saying, but the full saying we kind of forgot the last part of it. Is a jack of
Yeah.
all trades, master of none. But is it like a jack of all trades is better than none? Is that what it is, Rachel?
A jack of all trades, something master of none is still better than a master of one.
Right.
So
So there you go. So and I just think that's so funny that we culturally forgot. That like the whole point is like, no, it is good to be good at a bunch of things. We kind of like flip the meaning of that expression. And, I've been in it 22 years. So I work by myself so much, too much, honestly, that it's not a good thing. But I had to learn everything. And I think there is something good to that and all the different skills that I have from, writing to production to recording. So yeah, I just want to challenge that one.
You've talked about how you had messages from people who like clearly related to some of the videos and how it helped them through some rough times. What does that mean for you? Like, how much do you create for yourself versus how much do you create for others?
There's a bit of a paradox because on some level, if you're working to publish and you want lots of people to see and appreciate and be inspired by what you're making, then surely you are making for others.
Mhm.
But I also believe all the best work cannot be controlled. So you can control the context in which you're working and like the state of mind that you're in. And there's all these other levers you can pull on to kind of see what will happen. But then like the great work kind of just comes out on its own. And so like I made the internet drama, for example, because I saw someone else do a thing and I was inspired by it and excited about it. And then I had this other thing that I loved, which was this one screenshot. And then, I pulled on that thread and I was just trying to make myself laugh really. And then, and that was kind of the rule throughout all of them that I made is if I didn't make myself laugh in the process, I'd just throw it out.
Yeah.
It's the only thing you have is your own kind of sense. So in that sense, I'm always working for myself.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, you've got to do something that makes you happy first, right? Like, I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think it's really inspiring to hear how you juggle keeping the audience in mind, but also staying true to what you're doing. And I think that's really coming through in your music now. You can see that it's quite different to the internet drama. And, you spoke earlier about making that transition and, it's on the back burner. You haven't thrown it out, but it's clearly something that you were expressing at that time that, tickled your fancy and it was joyful and funny, but you also have pursuits that you want to focus on. And I think designers would really relate to that because they might get not pigeonholed, but seen as one particular skill set or what they're known for. And when they try to move out of it, how did you find that process of what would you call the great rebrand or shifting towards more what you wanted to do next?
It's still a process, I guess it's your whole life in a way, but luckily I had also been, writing on with an artist called Charlotte Cardin here in Montreal and got to work on like a little over half of her album and that did really well and won some awards and like so there's like there's all these different facets and directions. And there's one song in particular that's having a moment in France right now, so that's very exciting. Although, like, also kind of toxic to keep looking at the stats. I'm actually on like a bit of a dopamine recovery right now. I'm like because with so I just had the flu and so I was like on just like YouTube Shorts. Okay, now Instagram Reels. Like I was just like addling my brain to like get through the days, and so now I'm like off it completely. And sorry, I'm going on a tangent here, but I'm luckily like surrounded by interesting people doing interesting things and getting to participate on those projects, and so that's another like facet of myself that gets to be expressed. And then in terms of the music, it was just kind of like. And still is kind of like, okay, well, who am I, and what is this like character that I want to bring to the world, and what is it that I'm trying to articulate and express through this music, and So I'm also in like a bit of a review moment now because the album is out. We've done all the work throughout the year, and so like I'm in I still don't know what the answer is, but I'm kind of figuring out what the next move is as well.
You just mentioned the metrics, right? Like that's because it's so visible and you can literally see it minute by minute. Like how do you navigate the highs of going viral versus the lows that come with something that doesn't get as much traction? And you just mentioned how you've had to like step back.
Yeah.
And I get that kind of like, when you're just ill in bed and you're just doom scrolling.
It can get amplified, right, when it's your thing or something that you worked on, and then you kind of, if you let it in on the way up, you kind of have to, you're going to feel it on the way down, like if I care, this song right now is like, it's like playing on the radio stations there, and it's in the top 50 France, and it's like, ooh, it's 35, now it's 37, like you're just kind of getting taken for a ride. And at the end of the day, like all of these numbers and the likes and the comment, whatever it is, are just a thin abstraction of the value of what you did and are doing. So it can be validating because you can have had this, like, I remember those are some of the best recording sessions of my life working on that song. We were having a blast. The energy was wild, and it was free, and it felt like anything. We were making jokes, and the jokes were becoming lyrics, and it felt like a fever dream. And so it's very nice to see that. And so that's part of what's so like addictive about it. It's like, oh, we really did it that time, But yeah, if you just keep looking at it all the time, it just saps your creative energy, and it's hard to like sit down and do something. Like you're getting too much for free, I feel like, So now I'm kicking it, and I'm waiting, and I'm suffering. It's like, because that's like if you're going to suffer as an artist, maybe that's an interesting way to do it, if you must, which I don't know that you always do, but like maybe that's an interesting suffering to do, is like get off of the garbage and clear your mind and make space for something interesting to happen.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I really resonate with what you mean by it saps your creative energy. You start being unable to create, and you almost feel blocked.
Yeah.
What are some of the tips and strategies? It sounds very aligned with the work we do.
Mm.
What are some of the actual pragmatic ways that you manage that kind of highs and lows and staying grounded?
I would ask you the same question, to be honest. I don't really have it figured out. I think what happens is I hit a wall, and then I go, okay, this is enough, or maybe it's in the conversations with people around me. My partner's really good. She's got a good sense of where I'm at, and she'll be like, maybe you gotta, this has been fun, but and she'll let me enjoy it, because it's nice to enjoy it too. Like, I'm not saying don't enjoy the moments when they come. My God, like they're so few and far between that, but yeah, you got to know your limit. And I also have like, together we have like a lot of structure in our days. So we have walks that are protected. We always go on a walk at a certain time together. There's certain meals we always eat together. So there's kind of like stability, but I think that's like different people need different things too. I need a lot of stability. I need a lot of stability and a lot of instability at once. It's a very conflicting thing. So I need pure chaos, and I also need everything to be exactly the same as yesterday. So yeah, I think for different people it could be different things, but you got to find if you can find your recipe, if you can find your kind of like elements that, oh yeah, when I put these ingredients together, it brings me back, and then find the discipline to eventually implement those. It's not a very good answer. I feel like I wish I had a better answer.
No, but I think it's interesting. So I was having this chat with someone the other day about the idea of balance, and people are always looking for a sweet spot of like, this is the perfect moment, but then actually the perfect moment for too long is then too much, right? And so
Yeah.
even the idea of balance, and we were chatting about the idea of being balanced, is like the perfect balance is not stillness, right? Like when you're balancing, it's a wobble, right? I always kind of like think of like, when you step on that half a was it like a Swiss ball or something at the gym, and you're like, ugh,
Oh,
like that's what balance would be, and like you're going to have to move a bit to the right, a bit to the left,
I really love
because it's a
that.
constant, move up and down,
Yeah.
which is hard. But I think the stuff that you said around, actually for us, I think what we often talk about is, when people talk about resilience, for example, resilience is not necessarily or expected to be an individual thing. It's actually about the resilience of the system that you have around you. And
Mm.
so if, you just talked about your partner, like if they can spot when, hey, I know you're having a great time now, but I know what comes next. And so let's just manage our way through that.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. Yeah.
I think that's so right. The people around you are so important for that. And, I have my manager and I have also my day-to-day manager, and they both know me really well in different ways and are also kind of tuned in and paying attention to where I'm at and able to unblock me from certain things. That's, yeah, finding the people around you who can unblock you and recognize patterns and stuff. That's super valuable.
because yeah, we're social creatures. We're not really meant to do these things by ourselves, um,
Yeah.
despite being encouraged to. And speaking of people around you, we read that you see yourself as an introvert. How does that help or hinder putting yourself out there?
I'm an introvert and I'm like I require a lot of independence. You cannot tell me anything, or I should say, very few people can tell me very few things. Um, but those are the people that I love the most, the ones who can tell me something, and those are my friends, and so now, but now I'm like I'm opening up a little more and trying to. I recently had this kind of like life changing thing where I had a show coming up and I got a vocal coach and we worked for like 2.5 months on my voice, and I had never worked with a vocal coach before, and I made progress in that 2.5 months that I was like, my God, I should have done that 15 years ago. And so I trust her enough that she can tell me something. So now I'm on this like, okay, find the people who can tell you something, because as it turns out, they have interesting things to say and they're of like great value. So yeah.
When you look at like your work, it looks very social, and maybe obviously it's on social media, so that helps. But it it looks like you're really, extrovert and putting it out there. But actually, doing that for a period of time where it can be pretty draining, especially if you're an introvert, because you don't necessarily get your energy from being out there all the time. And you said you work alone, obviously, quite a bit. Is it a case of balancing the crazy with the introspective time on your own?
Yeah, you definitely got to balance the crazy and well, and I should say for the internet dramas, let's say I was working, my partner filmed and directed those. So like, so there is a kind of a social, but then like we can be social in a way that's less draining, right?
Yeah.
But then, throughout the year of content, we started, working with little crews of people for the videos and stuff. And my creative director and other amazing people have been helping. But there is something kind of like exhausting about it. Absolutely. Especially like being on camera. Like there's this kind of like, um, not on every shoot, but some shoots, it's like I'm just completely done, and then camera switches on, and it's like,
Yeah.
you give your thing, and then it's like, okay, let me conserve until the next take, and there's a very strange aspect to that that does feel a bit insane as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I'm trying to work with more people, on music. I think writing music with people is music is like a communal art form, so it is a bit strange to sometimes just be at home alone, although I do love, 3 in the morning and just like coming up with something crazy and like, I'm a genius. And like, but there's a lot of fun to that. But there's also fun to like being in the room with 2, 3 other people who you trust creatively and be like, oh my God, like this is the best, like I live for those moments. So yeah, I'm looking to make more of them.
Mm. Sounds like the flow, when people get into the flow of things
Mm.
and time
Yes,
stops and everything just feels like it's exactly where it's meant to be. Um, yeah,
100%.
it's the best
Yeah,
feeling, isn't it? And we're
it
all
is.
finding our way to create that over and over again with balance.
Yeah, with balance. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think what you said earlier about chaos and peace, but that's just life, everything in life, there's a cycle of destruction and regrowth and chaos. And
Mm.
maybe it's about embracing that in the creative process as well, just to accept it as a natural way to create. But yeah, speaking of creating and chaos, we've heard you talk about great messages you've had from fans, but social media can be bloody rough. Have you had much negative feedback, and how do you deal with it?
I will say I'm very blessed to not have nearly as much negative social media attention as others get. For some reasons, I understand some that I don't. So I can't really like I can't complain. I find, but the ones that are negative, they really stick out. I feel bad for the ones who have more negative stuff because I can read 100 positive comments and there'll be one kind of weird one in there. And guess which one I remember verbatim,
Yeah.
like down to which emojis were in it. They live in your head. And so I learned after a while that like first off, like the early people are friendlier. And so the
Yeah.
longer a post has been up, the less you need, you should look at the comments at all. And then, yeah, and you can also get caught in the, which posts do well and which ones don't. Like, oh, I loved this post and like nobody likes it. And, yeah, for the most part, it's quite positive and kind. And sometimes even when they're like negative, they're kind of like, they don't real like, there's something so silly about it that it's just kind of thrilling. It's kind of just more fun than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think your content brings people so much joy and connection as well. And maybe they're even a little bit afraid you might turn it into a wonderful song.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
That
Nobody's
is good.
safe.
It works
Yeah.
both ways, doesn't it? It's like, oh, you've been nasty to me. That could be you. Come on, Doris.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and I always felt like the way that I tried to channel those characters, even when they were like the quote unquote crazy one, was with a genuine kind of empathy and
Yeah.
a feeling of, I always felt like, oh, I always use the horse one as an example, but I've been the girl who's arguing for it to be 15,000 pounds. And she's like, and I understand her frustration. It's like, just listen. I'm just telling you what I know to be true, and like we've all been there. I think and so maybe there's some of that has contributed too, this kind of like, let's empathize with everybody. It's just funny to be human. It's just funny. Yeah.
I do think the Facebook Marketplace, is this still available, is just gagging to be a, you
Yeah.
know?
Mine was the blue cheese, mold in the blue cheese was my favorite though. There's just the
Nice.
adamant.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I did ask my
Yeah.
daughter if she washed her legs this morning.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's a lot of beautiful empathy that comes through your energy, your music, the way you hold lightness in the humor. And you're right, there isn't any kind of there's no cruelty or meanness behind
No.
it. It's just joy and fun. And we'd love to hear a bit more about the beautiful meaning behind your new songs. I love how you empathize with people on them with a little like song that makes your daily commute feel like a movie, or the songs that make standing still feel like it's the only way. Yeah, I think that really resonates with people.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I tried to I think I'm a very empathetic person in general. Just such a now that I'm saying it out loud sounds very pretentious, but I don't necessarily see it as a good thing always, like and you can be empathetic and wrong also. Like you could just think what someone's feeling and that could be a mistake too. You can think for them, you can think on their behalf, which is not very always conducive. I think it's been nice to see how people are connecting with the new stuff. Pale Blue Dot in particular. Like,
Mm.
I thought that I was writing actually a unique experience, which was this idea of like of feeling like an alien as a child. And then when I started reading the comments, Like people are like, hey, like I felt like this too. And then people would start talking to each other in the comments and like, oh my God, I thought I was alone. But like, I told so-and-so that, that I was an alien and whatever. Like, so it was really fun to kind of, it almost felt collectively like we all just realized that we weren't alone in an experience that kind of is inherently lonely. This idea of, thinking you're from a different planet.
Mm. Do you think that's the case of like, I mean, quite a few things, especially online, is that sometimes it just takes a while for something to find its audience, right? Like,
Yeah.
overall, if you're creating something and you put it out there, you're not quite sure where it's going or how it's going to be received. But over time, the more you become known for what you do and the more you find your audience, right? And so it makes it a little bit easier to get traction with what they like, but also it's not necessarily a case of pleasing them. It's just that you found your tribe.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right. I think that maybe more and more like things are so more and more things catch fire quickly, and but also more and more things kind of slowly find their audience over time. And
Mm.
even the song that's popping off in France right now that I helped write has been out for a year.
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
suddenly, like, and then one thing happened that made another thing happen that, so you never know. You never know when the song's gonna find, the people or whatever it is that you're making. Yeah.
Obviously, like you had your little like rocket boost with the internet drama stuff. But what, like, for people who still haven't had their moment yet, like the creatives struggling with self-doubt and the pressures of social media and like bad feedback and not finding their audience, what advice have you got around like how do you get through that? Because obviously it took you some time to get to that point as well.
I don't feel like I ever, had a choice. May have seemed like it, and I think that the appearance of having a choice of continuing down the path of trying to be an artist, like, was not good for me. That everyone that I think like socially, it feels like, what are you doing, buddy? Like, because I was making no money. It wasn't really working for a long time. In this, but only in the sense of like what working means in our culture and like, the money and whatever. Like I would land a few gigs here and there, but I wasn't really interested in working for other people or doing music for ads. I'd do it when I had to. Like it's like perseverance, but like I just couldn't do anything else. So if that's how you feel, like, and you don't feel like, then I have some empathy for you, and I would just say, let's see. I mean, it's not going to be easy. And the way that you're going to get through might not be how you think it's going to be. And the journey is going to be longer than you think it's going to be, maybe, probably, because we always underestimate, you know, how long it takes for things to happen. And then the other thing is like if you feel like what I felt like at the time that no one understood the like potential in me sort of, that the things that I could do, the way I felt after the internet dramas hit and those numbers came in, and then I could walk into rooms and kind of like the people already knew, the proof was in the pudding, and like it's like in this kind of form that everyone understands, and like, oh, everybody knows Jimmy Fallon if they don't understand TikTok. So like I had this kind of validation, and it sounds like it shouldn't have made me feel better, but it did. It made me feel so much better, because then the kind of what is it in psychology, like the super ego, like the sense of the world around you's image of you
Mhm.
was aligned, or much more closely aligned with how I felt about myself. So if you're out there and it feels like it's not aligned, like that feeling, like, yeah, like it's weird. It's like I don't know. I don't know if there's advice, or maybe you just need to hear it, that it changed, or that something came and it was fine eventually, and now I feel more comfortable, you know, in general, like, and it just doesn't seem like a millions of TikTok views should make you feel more comfortable as a person. It doesn't seem right, but I don't know, it did it, and
Yeah.
it doesn't feel unhealthy.
Yeah, and you've got to find what's right for you, right? Like for me, I often find it's like one of those things is like if you're constantly looking for something, you'll never find it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there are people who have. I remember, like a friend of mine, Craig Black, who's an artist over in the UK, and I remember him doing a talk once, and he talked about like his visualization board and how he'd put up pictures of like, right, I want to go and talk at this conference in LA, and I want to go and talk at this, and I want to do this, and like, the next year he did it. And so for him, it was like just this, if you visualize it, it'll happen. But for others and for me, it's like, if I just took my mind off that for a little while and less focus on it, then stuff can happen. I just think it's going to be different for everyone, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Yeah. I think in the end, like the only thing I did actually, yeah, here's one principle I'm just remembering is I had at some point realized that whatever I thought was most exciting, if I did that, no matter what the outside pressures felt like, if I was excited about it and I was just drawn and compelled to do it, that I should do it. And that always tended to move me towards what I wanted.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I mean, it was like I was in the middle of finishing my EP and I was like, I feel like I just need to make some TikToks. And I was like breaking the rules a little. I was like slacking off. So, yeah. So just maybe that.
And it's intrinsic versus extrinsic, right? Like if you're always relying on what's something outside of you, then you can't control that as much as, what you can feel inside. So it does make perfect sense. Just like switching streams a little bit, part of the challenge for a lot of creatives obviously is money. What about the commercial side of this? Is it as successful as it looks? I mean, the $1 million mic you've got in front of you, obviously.
It all went into the mic, baby.
Or are you about to just jump off of this and do an Uber shift? Like, how's life?
No, well, I'm doing okay now. So after the internet dramas, then while I was hot on TikTok and everything, then the brands wanted a piece, and so that was nice. We got to do some really cool pieces, and had lots of creative control, and that was really fun. Fun stories that I don't think I'm allowed to talk about, but yeah, that was cool. And then it was kind of like, okay, hang tight, like. I want to be a music artist, but I'm a little bit becoming like a social media influencer. So then we started becoming, much more selective, which is also really nice. If you have the luxury, to say no to a bunch of things, it does create a lot of room for the more interesting things to pop up. And then since then, it's like working on other artists' music, some streaming revenue as well. We got merch going now, which is none of these things are necessarily making as much money as like, let's say like a little ad here and there and the work on other people's music for now. I'm not super focused on getting rich, let's say. I think if I was, we could have done a bunch more ads and we could have done real nice. And honestly, if I really wanted to make money, I'd go back to making internet dramas nonstop, and then I'd take every gig that came in, But yeah, doing better now, honestly, trying to figure out how to manage it because it's not like a salary, let's say. So you're kind of like, okay, how long do I have to stretch this out for? And so I'm not very good at it, to be honest. I think I hoard it a little because I'm in my head, I'm still broke,
That's not such a bad way to think about it. No,
it's the better of the two extremes, I think, or it's the safer of the two extremes. I always lean safe, but like sometimes, when you spend like 3 days mulling over a $20 purchase, and it's like, I probably should have just bought it. So yeah, we're learning, we're getting better.
It's a lot of change. And speaking of change, I'm big into clothes. I think clothes tell people who you are before you get to tell people who you are. It's like another creative expression, and I find outfits just a really fun outlet to paint this picture of who you want to be. And the best thing about it is that you can always change, because we always change as people. We never stay the static person, and people tell us to be steady and be this reliable, one-dimensional person, but we're always forever changing. And so I love that about clothes. Tell us a little bit about the outfit. I've noticed you've got this beautiful big suit
It's
at
hanging in
Oversized.
the
Oh,
background.
that's right.
And I
Yeah,
can
it's in the
see it
frame.
hanging in the
Yeah.
background. Yeah. Tell us about what
So
it presents.
so that was actually first I love what you said about clothes and the idea that we are always changing, and so that your outfits can change, and this will connect to the suit, but I always wear the same thing actually every day. I wear a uniform, kind of like, same hoodie,
Yes.
same pants. And part of that is just like I don't want to make the decisions every day, and part of it is, I'm trying to get into like a deeper, like in my mind there's like a really intense fashion, like my closet's crazy, and I've got all these super expressive things, but anytime I look at any one piece I always feel like, it doesn't like capture every single detail about me. And so I think I'm going to carry what you said with me, because there are so many facets to me that maybe I should just be looking at, can an outfit just reflect one, and then I can build that out. But that was the idea behind the suit, was that much like in my life, I always wear the same thing. Well, we thought, what if, the Lubalin in this rollout always wears the same thing, but it's this, giant oversized suit. This was originally JB Prou, my creative director's idea, and then we went to our friend Rémi Van Boshov, who made it for us custom. And he actually, we said, we need you to make us the biggest suit you've ever made, and he said, I'd never made a suit. So he learned on this project, and as it turns out, people who make suits don't usually make other things, and people who make other things don't usually make suits. It was quite an undertaking, but really beautiful. And it's like it's got the lining, it's not just for the pockets work, everything's legit. So, and yeah, the idea was, coming off the funny TikToks, it was like, I just really want people to take me seriously. And that's the size of the suit, is just how much I want to be taken seriously.
Oh, I love that. And what a beautiful message to have sewn into that suit as well. You've got people around you that are also trying new things that they've never done before and
Yes.
experimenting because creatively they're drawn to it, and feel excited by it. That's such a cool meaning behind it. I love that you're just owning how much you want to prove your professionalism and seriousness to people, and making it into a beautiful outfit as well. And that, even though you say that this is what you just wear the one thing, that's what the Lublin right now will always wear. And
Yeah.
maybe it'll change into something else. And that's exciting to see the evolution of that. I've got a friend of mine who was always like really funny, always imitating people's accents, making really good social observations. And he just made TikToks. I think he, similar to you, just one day was like, oh, turn it into a TikTok. And he just blew up. And he became like this big influencer in Bali for his comedy and just social observations on how the country was treated by tourists. And he talked to me about the pressures of now being funny, and he just started to feel like he was forcing it. And do you find that this can hinder the creative process? And you've talked a little bit about it, but yeah, I'd love to hear a bit more.
Oh, I could imagine. I luckily don't feel the pressure to be funny. Like, but that's why I don't think I'd be like a stand up or anything. Like, I think that's just such a like challenging craft. That's like the ultimate. I love stand up comedy. I love what those guys do, and but I could never. Yeah, no, I luckily don't feel too much pressure to be funny. To be honest, I don't. I think actually I'm more usually funny unintentionally. Like a very expressive face, I guess. And so, yeah.
Stand-up comics are so jealous now, unintentionally funny.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, I don't, well, because you know what? Like, I remember like in school, I was funny, I guess, and that was like a defense mechanism. Cool. But, but then if someone was like, yo, say something funny, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Tell me a joke.
it's not going to happen. No
Not a
shot,
good defense mechanism to have.
Yes. Yeah. As it turns out, like all that suffering yields eventually.
Yeah. But that must be hard, right? Because it's like, if that's your job and then you get up on stage and someone goes, make me laugh, like that's
Oh yeah.
hard.
Yeah, and you got on the stage willingly,
Yeah.
and under the pretext that you're gonna make these people, oh, forget it, too much pressure.
And also, depending on what they think funny is funny, right? Like I watched this interview the other day with Ramesh Ranganathan, who's a Sri Lankan comic in the UK, and he's hilarious, but he talked about the pressure of going to Liverpool in the UK, and he goes, the thing about Liverpool is that everyone already thinks they're funny, so you have to be funnier than them, and if you're not, then you just get thrown out of the city.
That's funny.
Now, I don't know whether we're allowed to ask this question, but we're going to go like a little bit of a origin-ish story. So I did a little bit of rooting around on your name, and which I believe is it like taken from a graphic designer,
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Lubalin? So obviously that's interesting. We'd love to know a little bit more about that. But then, like, are we allowed to ask the real name, or is this like we'll never find out? Are you like kind of Banksy, and we don't,
Yeah, I'll take that. I am basically Banksy, and and so no, I just honestly, it's just a more of a private life thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of started with when the dramas were going crazy, and it's getting recognized in the street and all kinds of stuff, and we just didn't know where it was going, and so we just kept it under wraps.
So you picked this name.
Yeah. So Lubalin. So my partner is a graphic designer, and I was in a kind of a phase where I was caring too much what everybody thought and kind of too worried about what people would think of things to release them. And so I just had this hard drive full of music that I was not finishing and whatever. And then we were looking at a book on Herb Lubalin, his American typographer, created Avant-Garde and a bunch of really like infamous logos and stuff. And he had this kind of energy to him. Like, I just remember one of the things was like he made this insane logo. It was beautiful. It was so cool. I really love his work. And actually, by the way, I later discovered that they pronounce it Lubalin. So that's my little differentiators. I'm Lubalin and he's Lubalin. Yeah, I just loved his work. And what he would pitch it to the client, whatever he thought they needed, and he would be out there and you'd be like what you would go to him for. And then the client would sometimes be like, oh, like, we don't know if this might be a little too crazy for us. Can we like change anything about it? And he'd just be like, no, you just go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not, this is what I made. And so you take it or leave it. And I thought, yeah, that's the energy. That's the spirit that I'm missing, Mm-hmm. And so I thought, okay, in the spirit of this, why don't I change my name right now to Lubalin and not second guess it for a moment? And so I didn't, which is a weird thing. Picking a name is like you would want to take your time and really think about it. But I needed that, like, that on a whim kind of energy. Yeah.
It's so funny how you say that, because I think we're all creative beings, I believe. But it's funny how being creative is such a spiritual journey. It starts to feel, it's almost like some of the best decisions you make are the ones that appear on a whim. They just feel instinctively right, and they call to you, they pull to you, they give you the power that you need in that moment. Yeah, it sounds like you're on this amazing journey of finding your voice, having the hard drive that's like a lockbox of all your music that you're afraid to release, and then you're just looking for the key.
I fully agree. And those moments, I think we work hard, right? As creatives, like you beat your head against the wall and you do all this stuff, but you're just working hard so that when those moments come, that little strike of lightning where everything just starts clicking and flowing, that you're ready, right? And hopefully willing,
Yes, my fiance talks about that all the time. We call it noticing. When you're so present in your life, you're actually like, life is happening for us all around us, but are you able to notice it happening and then taking those moments to grab it? And our story is pretty crazy. I'll give you just a quick summary, is that we met on a plane, and there had to be so many different facets that aligned us to meet on this plane, to be sat exactly where we were sitting. He was one seat in front of me and I was one behind. We're going to America, and we somehow started conversating through me talking to the stranger next to me, and then found out we're going to the same conference, staying at the exact same Airbnb address. Yeah, didn't believe in soulmates, and now I do. And he proposed 6 months later. And, since then we've just really started to really continue to notice
Yeah, yeah. It's like, what else? What else are we being, told? You
Yeah.
know, like, yeah, that's cool. That's beautiful.
It is cool,
Mm.
and it's been rapid. Like we only met. I mean, we met just before that happened, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, we did.
and
Cool.
it's been quite unbelievable almost to kind of watch it from the sidelines because it's like, oh, where are you now? Oh, we just moved into a house. Okay. Oh, we got married. We're getting married. Oh, okay. Whoa! How quickly do you move? Like,
And normally, no, I had to be like, "Are you a narcissist? This is really fast. I'm terrifying." But just, you just trust the instinct. You just trust that beautiful. I don't know. You don't even need to tell anyone. You just feel it. And even how we met Andy was quite fortuitous, wasn't it? Similar to what you were saying, Lubalin, I was posting on LinkedIn just my thoughts, and in my mind, they're just ramblings that make me entertained and make me feel better about life, and hopefully help other people feel better about maybe challenges they're going through. And then Andy and I had a lot of
so many
colleagues.
people in common. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
you had a photo shoot
Oh, yeah,
with
with Tim.
Tim, and it was just. Wait a minute. How come we haven't met before?
Yeah. Then we met, and Andy was like, I'm doing all this amazing stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be involved and help. And so now we're all here.
Yeah, there we
Not
go.
a-
That's so cool. Hell yeah.
Well, I think that's quite a fitting point to log off. But it's been such an awesome chat, and I love like just how much this like the conversation will have so much relevance for everyone that that listens to the podcast. And I think even just like that last bit, then even when you were talking about the almost like the ethos that Lubalin had around, hey, no, this is it, is just the constant conundrum that a creative in our industry faces every day, right? There's two sides to it. There's one which is I have to please a client, they're paying for it, and then there's the other side which is, well, I know what I'm doing. This is what it is, and the reason you hired me is because you don't know how to do it, so let me do it. And it's this constant kind of play back and forth, and some can do it, others go, well, no, I'll just take the money and do what we need, and that's which is perfectly fine, right? Like that's a career.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I envy those people,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Oh, could you imagine just doing what you're told and being happy with that?
yeah.
Fantastic. No, that's a beautiful thing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with
Nothing wrong
that.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah. If anything, there's something wrong with the rest of us. Um, we'll figure it out.
We will.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. And I think, what you're doing is great. I'm sure the rest of the album, Haha, No Worries, will be now a regular. What I'm looking forward to is my Spotify Wrapped next year, which is when I see that you hit the top. And,
Awesome.
I think that's where it's going to get to. So thank you so much for joining us.
Hell yeah.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. This was a blast. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. We've loved chatting to you. And yeah, you've got two big fans, and all our peripherals are now big fans as well. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much.